if you expect the worst to happen, then the worst will most likely happen. It doesn't mean that it will or that it's certain. It just means that the chances are increased. When you're constantly anticipating everything to be negative and you anticipate that was going to be the outcome, you never anticipate anything good. You never expect anything good out of your life or out of your decisions, then majority of the time you will be met with negative outcomes. It's kind of like this saying, like, don't speak into existence, because when you speak it out and then it happens, you spoke into existence, right? So I feel like that's where it kind of like came from, is that when you constantly expect the worst to happen, then it kind of happens. But with that negative aspect, if you flip it, then the positive is also, I'd say, implicated, right? You can't have just one force. You can't just have one negative side and then there'd be no positive whatsoever. You got to have an opposite reaction. So if you expect the negative out of everything and the negative always happens, what would happen if you expected the good out of everything? Now, is it a guarantee that good's going to happen out of your life or out of the decisions that you make? No. But I'd say your likelihood of it being positive is increased. Because I feel like, I'm not like a scientist or anything. I don't know an answer, but if I had to give like a theory or a hypothesis of what I think happens, I think that subconsciously, when we really trick ourselves to believe that the worst is always going to happen, then in a way we increase the chances on our own, because we don't see good happening at all, because we're expecting the worst. So if we're expecting the worst, then we plan for the worst as well. And I think with that, I don't think planning for the worst is a bad thing, but when you expect that the only answer and the only outcome is going to be negative, then to you or to your brain, there is no chance of there being a good thing coming out of your decisions for whatever it is. So I feel like it's kind of like a self-sabotage kind of thing. Like, if you truly believe that the worst is going to happen and it's never going to be good, then how does your brain know how to handle when good does come? You know, it's kind of like, what do I say? Like, when you take someone who's hurt, right? You take someone who's in a lot of emotional pain and you throw them into a good relationship. When they're in that mindset of it's always going to end wrong, it's always going to be bad, then what do? They self-sabotage. They get themselves out of that situation as soon as possible, even if that person is the one for them, right? Even if you put them with the person that is the one, they still are going to self-sabotage because, A, they don't think they deserve it. B, they think the worst is going to happen, on and on and on. There's going to be so many ideas that pop up in their head. But I think you understand what I'm going with this, though. When you don't even expect anything good to happen, then how can you mentally even prepare for positive outcomes? Because it's just like, when something bad happens, you have to mentally prepare for that, right? And obviously, we don't always prepare for that. Sometimes we get our hopes up and we expect the best to happen and the complete opposite happens, right? But it's just, I feel like it's the same thing with like positivity, though. Like, if you don't know how to handle it, the most of the time you're going to self-sabotage. You're going to do everything in your power to get out of that situation. Even though it's good, there could be so many different things that you might tell yourself to get yourself out of that situation. So I truly think if you don't have any belief, so like, say this comes to, let's say you apply this to your dreams, right? Let's say you have a certain dream you really want to fulfill, but you don't think there's any chance it can happen. Doesn't matter how hard you try. You're always telling yourself that the worst is going to happen. It's guaranteed. There's no shot at anything good coming out of it. How are you supposed to work towards your goals then? If you already are telling yourself that it's only going to go one way, how are you even supposed to prepare for the positive side of it? Like, if it does go well, what are you supposed to do? Right? So, like, what do you do with that? Because then what happens if it does happen? You didn't prepare for that at all. I'm not saying don't prepare for the worst, but if you already are expecting the worst to happen and nothing's even happened yet in whatever situation you're in, you're already kind of setting yourself up for failure. There's nothing wrong with preparing for the worst to happen. You know, everybody's got like plan Bs, you know, if like the first job doesn't go well, they have a plan B on the side to pick up from how plan A failed, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but those people aren't necessarily expecting the worst. They just kind of have like a plan for if something goes wrong, but they still expect there being a chance that something comes out of this, right? But there are so many people that think it is impossible to do what they actually want to do with their life, and they are already expecting the worst to happen if they did try. So what does that do? Well, when you expect the absolute worst to happen, it kind of kills your motivation to do it because you're telling yourself it's not possible. You're telling yourself the chances of it happening is very slim, so what's the point of trying? So when you do that, you're not going to try anything. Anything that seems out of your reach, you will cut off because to you it's wasted time, right? Because the chances of that happening is very slim. So why would you try? That's what you tell yourself. So that's what I'm saying. When you expect the worst to happen, most likely the worst is going to happen. And sometimes when you expect the worst to happen, the best things happen. And it goes the other way around. Sometimes when you expect the best things to happen, the worst things happen. But the point is, if all you expect is bad to come out of your decisions, of your goals, of your dreams, of any outcome in your life, most of the time it's going to be negative because you aren't giving yourself enough wiggle room to actually put effort into whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish here. Because you're already telling yourself that, oh, this really bad thing is going to happen. So if you're getting into relationships or dating and you think that everybody's going to cheat on you, you're probably not going to put so much effort in the relationship because you think that the worst is going to happen. If your goal is to start a business and, you know, try to become financially free or whatever, but you tell yourself that the worst is going to happen, that you're going to put all this money into business and it's just not going to work out, then what's going to happen? Your motivation's going to die. You're not really going to want to do it because you're like, what's the point? Because the chance of this becoming something successful is very slim. So what happens? The work towards it kind of diminishes. You know, your drive for it kind of dies off and it goes nowhere. That's what I'm saying. So when you really just expect everything to be bad, you're not going to do it. If you want to travel and you think that if you go to any different area than where you live and that something bad's going to happen where you either get mugged or, you know, people are rude, if you just think that's what's going to happen when you go out into the world, are you going to travel? No, because you're expecting the worst to happen. Instead of telling yourself that, well, maybe I could meet new people. Maybe I could meet somebody. Maybe I could meet new friends. If you don't have that mentality when it comes to traveling, or like maybe, I could go, even if your reason for traveling isn't to meet people, which most people aren't, even if it's something like, I just want to go see the world. If you tell yourself the worst things are going to happen, you're not going to give yourself that chance to go see the world. Because you're like, all these bad things can happen, so what's the point? So the whole point of why I'm saying what I'm saying is that when you do expect the worst to happen, then most likely the worst is going to happen because you kind of subconsciously just reject whatever it is that you want because of what a possible outcome might happen. If that makes sense. Like I said, you want to start a business, become financially free. If you think that's not going to happen, you're going to self-sabotage in some way. You're going to stop putting effort in, you're going to lose your drive, you're going to lose motivation, and then eventually it will die off and you'll completely forget about it. Or if you're getting into relationships and all you think about is how there's a chance that you're going to get cheated on every time you go out, then you're not going to try towards relationships because to you, you're expecting the worst to happen. You expect that there's nothing good to come out of this thing. There's nothing good to come out of a relationship, so why try? That's what you tell yourself. Whether you're literally telling yourself that or not, it's going through your brain because you're expecting the worst. You're expecting the worst for some reason, whether it is you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in the outcome, you don't believe it's even possible, and that just comes down to a mentality issue. I'm not saying that your mental health is off. I'm just saying that negativity. Ultimately, that's what it is. If you expect everything to be bad and nothing good to come out of your life, then that's what's going to happen, because you don't give yourself enough room to grow with positivity, or whatever you want to call it. So that's my thing. You can't expect the worst to come out of everything. Don't get me wrong, there are situations where it is probably smart to be like, yeah, the chances of, you know, such and such to be like good, it's probably not a good thing. Like, if you get what I'm saying. Sometimes when your gut is just telling you this is not a good idea and this will not end well, it's probably good to listen to your gut and follow that. Like, if you went out to a ghetto area and your gut's just like, man, I really shouldn't go down this dark alley, then you probably should listen to your gut, because it's telling you, I don't feel good. This doesn't make me feel well. There probably will be something bad to happen. And that is the feeling that might save your life one day. So, I'm not saying that completely not, or like, I'm not saying that expecting the worst is always bad. There's actually a good time when you probably should expect the worst, and you probably should learn to walk away. Like I just said, if you go to like a really ghetto area and there's a long dark alley and you're just like, man, I could go down this right now, but something's telling me I probably shouldn't, then you probably should listen to that voice or whatever, because it's probably right that you shouldn't go down that dark alley. So you just can't expect the worst to happen out of everything. If you want something good to come out of your life, you got to have a little bit of faith that there is a chance that it could come out good. Not saying that you got to get your hopes up and hurt yourself. No. But I'm just saying that you got to leave some room on the table for positive things to happen. If you only believe that negative is going to come out of it, then that's what's going to come out of it. Sure, there might be a small chance that something positive comes out of that too, but why not increase your chances by maybe leaving some room for positive things to occur? So that's really it. Just stop expecting the worst out of every little thing that happens in your life. You gotta leave some room for positive things to occur. But that's really it. Other than that, life isn't too short to make a change.